Hi there, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. And in this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. I truly believe that sometimes a single insight can completely change your business directions and allow you to achieve your business goals. In this episode, I interview Sonia Di Maulo, a Chief Reinvention Officer at Harvard Performance. She's an author of The Apple in the Orchard. She's a scholar, certified Reinvention Practitioner, and professor at Concordia University. We had a discussion on various different topics, and she shared also insights on the impact of current disruption on businesses, staff, and also leaders. She also outlined how to deal with the complex issues, whether your staff is working in an office or they're working in a hybrid environment. But we also had a discussion on her third annual Reinvention Canada Summit, which is happening on June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. I'm going to include a link below the video as well for you to take a look and register if you're interested. So if you like this content, don't forget to send us your feedback. Until next time, enjoy. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. And today my guest is someone special, Sonia Di Maulo. Sonia is a Chief Revenue Officer at the Harvard Performance. And Sonia, this discussion I'm looking forward to about leadership. I think this is one of that discussion during the time where we just gone through for the last couple of years. It's so challenging. Situation has been for everybody. So I'm looking forward to learning from you, looking forward to our discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I'm so excited to dig into these hot topics.
Good stuff. So why don't we start from, if you can walk us through, give us a little bit insight. What do you do at the Harvest Performance and how do you help our business leaders?
Yes. So Harvest Performance is a company I founded over 10 years ago. And the key function or the primary function of our work is around grounding emerging leaders in purpose and prosperity. And we do that by working with, so emerging leaders has not an age limit. So I think emerging leadership is something that emerges throughout our entire leadership journey. Mm-hmm. But I do have a special affinity for the emerging leaders that are just now looking for a way to fit and to have impact in our world. And I'm finding that there's a big need there. Mm-hmm. So in Harvest Performance, we have programs and coaching and mentoring that helps emerging leaders to find their purpose. There's a lot of confusion nowadays around, what do we do? What do I do with my life? I'm studying, but, mm-hmm. where does this go? And we have a lot of people who are in transition in their careers who have the same kind of thoughts. So we focus there and we help emerging leaders in all stages of their careers get to the next level.
I see. So how big is the challenge, Sonia, and this, is the school university preparing a little bit better than before, these students coming out or also middle managers, are they more educated, coming into the, different industries? It's a less of education now than before, or is it getting a more challenging on this to prepare these leaders?
I think it's more challenging. So one of the things that I also do is I'm co-founder of Reinvention Canada as part of the Reinvention Academy, which is a global organization. And one of the things that we're seeing is the speed of change is accelerating. So that makes, doesn't matter what kind of leader or employee that you are, that makes our jobs harder and harder. Because of all these changes that are coming, 1 minute we're on track and we're like, okay, everything's good. And, then within 10 minutes, that whole thing can change. And we have experienced that in the past 2 years. The changes are coming faster and faster. They're coming from different places. And that is not going to stop. It's actually going to keep going faster. So from an educational perspective, I think that we need to be more grounded in who we are and what we believe in. Our values need to be at the forefront. I'm also seeing and hearing about a lot of stories of stress in the workplace. And when their leaders are not grounded, they're stressed, then they lead from a place of stress as opposed to leading from a place of values. And that is causing a lot of burnout and a lot of leaves of absences. And that doesn't help anybody, right? So this is an opportunity for us to really dig deep and find our true nature, our true, whatever it is that makes us happy, satisfied. I call it grounding, so because people don't like the word happy and it's all this stuff, but if we're grounded, and I have a favorite proverb that I use a lot. It's a Malay proverb that says, a tree grounded in its roots laughs at storms. So these storms are going to keep coming. And if we're grounded and we're strong and, like a tree, we're just going to laugh as the storm goes by. Yeah. And these storms, like I said, there's going to be so many of them. So I see that as part of my own purpose, is to help emerging leaders really feel clarity in their thoughts, their words, and their actions.
That grounding part, and also, that's been challenged over the last couple of years, right? So I know business leaders need to help a lot of, their team, their staff a lot, but they themselves going through a lot, and in families and financially or many different, or health-wise, so many different challenges. And definitely when you're going through so much, you lose a lot of grounding, right? So how does the business leaders, ground themselves and stay strong, and then they can go help other people as well?
Oh, well, you just said it perfectly. You got to help yourself first before you can help others. And I think that that's where the awareness comes in. So as part of our programs, awareness, self-awareness is actually 80% of the work. And asking questions of yourself that you've never asked before really helps you sort of turn the camera on yourself to look at your own behaviors and how you show up in the world. First of all, for yourself. Yeah. And then for others. And, our whole purpose in life is to be there for ourselves and for others. And when I say others, I mean our family, our community, our organizations, the world. It could be as big or small as you want it to be. And I think the number one thing is to possibly slow down and to take time to ask yourself the important questions and decide, am I going to keep going straight? Yeah. Should I turn off a little bit? Should I take these little steps here? Involve your team and involve your organization in these conversations. I had a leader that I was speaking to the other day who said, I think I'm going to ask this purpose question in the onboarding session for my new employee. I said, that's fantastic. So, having these conversations just on a daily basis just helps people light up. And I had another leader I worked with in 2021. And, when I said purpose, that was like a big thing. It's like, well, what do you mean purpose? I don't understand what that means. So after a few sessions, he came to really understand what it was for himself. And he says, I'm going to try with my team. So he launched it on their teams, and he just planted the seed, and they all looked at him like, what did you do with our leader? Like, who is this person? So I recommend that you invite your team to say, well, listen, I'm looking into increasing my awareness on, my daily actions and how we can live a fulfilling life, both at work and at home. And, slowly these people came back to this leader I'm talking to you about, and they said, yesterday you talked to us about purpose. That was interesting. Can you tell us more? And I think people are in need. They crave to find meaning. We can call it whatever we want. Purpose is a big word. You can call it, I call it living legacy, which is something I leave every day. So we have to find the right language for ourselves and for our organizations, but really we need to start having those conversations around what makes people come alive and give them more of that for ourselves and then for others.
So is it a purpose of our leaders? Or are we talking about person of the company? Or are we talking about the person of the brand? Are they all aligned together? Or is it three different items that we're talking about?
They should be aligned. Absolutely. So we know about organizational purpose, that's not new. That's something that is part of our DNA right now. So the organization has a purpose, the organization has a vision, the organization has values. We have behaviors that match those values, and we try to measure those in our organizations. But teams also should have a purpose. And teams should have values. And of course, they might be a spin-off of the organization, but there should be alignment. And then the one that is rarely talked about is employee purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And those all three should be aligned. In fact, I've got a graphic for that. So that's seriously, that's the ultimate goal, is that organizations start by better understanding the purpose of the employee. And if they don't know, then they can integrate that into their onboarding processes, so that as the employee grows with the organization, there can be a transparent alignment between what my purpose is and what the organization's purpose is. And we can't be afraid of asking these questions, because I had a manager at one point. I was talking to a manager and I introduced this idea of talking about purpose. And she says, oh no, she says, if I talk about purpose with my employees, they're going to quit. They're going to quit. They don't want to be here. So that's fear, right? That's fear talking. And I think that that if we don't, let's look at the opposite. If we don't have these conversations, then we have employees that are just filling seats, going through the motions, and are not passionate about what they do. And that there's a lost opportunity for us to try to bring passion to their job. And it, of course, is not, not 8 hours a day of passion, but there has to be something that drives them, so that when they wake up in the morning, they're excited about it. Why? Because that'll increase our team performance, it'll increase our organizational performance, and ultimately everybody wins. And it starts with the individual.
So where does that value sits in when you're aligning with the purpose with all three we just talked about? Where does a personal value or your professional value stands when you're aligning those three?
I love it. It's really at the heart.
Okay.
Right. So if you're thinking about circles, the employee, the individual is at the heart, in the middle. Then we layer on the team purpose.
Okay.
And then we layer on the organizational purpose. So my work focuses on the individual and the team purpose. And then, if everybody's doing that, then the organization that has already figured all that out, then it just steps in line. And then there's harmony and there's great energy within the halls of the organization.
Nice. So how big has this been challenged during this last couple of years to aligning the purpose with the people now working under the same roof, or they work in remotely from homes, and so much going on for the last couple of years? How big has the challenge has been? Where do you think that people get stuck when they're working in this challenging time that we just passed for the last couple of years?
I think it's tough. Yeah, I think there's a lot of effort being made now to find that human aspect with working remotely or in a hybrid, like now that there's more hybrid going on. I started my career over 22 years ago, and I always worked internationally. And sometimes I never met the people I worked with, and we only had the phone, and the phone was connected to the wall. But we created beautiful things, and it was a very human interaction. And I think that when we add the screen and we add the two-dimensional aspect, the technology becomes a barrier to our humanness, but it doesn't have to be. And I think it's a skill like any other skill. And, I lead teams, and I deliver training sessions to people. And sometimes they're new to the organization. And I have people that say, I've been at the organization for 9 months and I've never had a beautiful conversation I had with my colleagues. Like, I just throw them into breakout rooms and have them talk. Yeah. And I think sometimes, you need an external person to come in and facilitate these things. But it's not hard for an organization to do that. We have the technology, and we have to find better ways to integrate people who are dispersed possibly or not in the same location and online, so that we can create some of that white space that we used to have before, that interim space in between the work that we sort of lost. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. Before the pandemic, the purpose conversation was harder, I find. But since the pandemic hit, it's easier to have these conversations because everybody's searching for their purpose. Everybody's searching because we've been disconnected. And now we're like, well, is this what I really want to do? And I think it's a perfect opportunity for organizations to jump on and say, let's find out what our employees need and what helps them come alive. Because if they're alive, the organization is alive. And I just see it as an immense opportunity to have these conversations.
Yeah, I had several conversations now over the last few weeks, and when people trying to bring staff back to the office, a lot of my colleagues they're thinking about, do we want to do hybrid? Do we want to bring staff back in office? And what I'm hearing from business leaders that they're not bringing in staff back for productivity, because if you look at productivity gone higher during this pandemic, because we worked any hours we want to, but is this missing the social element, or there's a leadership, or there's a human interaction, this impact and managing team. That's what they're missing, and that's what they want to bring people back in a hybrid environment back in office. Is that what you're hearing? I'd like to take your thoughts on it. What do you think that that the reason people bring it back to office is that human element, or are they also looking for productivity, I guess?
I think it depends. It's a big question, and there's a lot of different organizations out there. Based on my conversations, some of the traditional organizations are just saying, well, come back to the office just because we have an office and, and we want you to come. And in particular case, their productivity doubled, actually. So people are more productive at home. But if collaboration is suffering for whatever reason, there's different metrics that we're testing, then I think that organizations need to integrate better ways of socialization other than everybody jump on a Zoom call and just have a discussion with people. Like, it has to be just strategically integrated on how you consume socially and how you can bring people together socially without necessarily needing them in the same room for 8 hours if your productivity is high. Because if it's high, then those are signals. Your employees are telling you stuff. They're saying, we're happy at work and we're doing a better job, but maybe there's other aspects. So, instead of guessing, let's ask our employees. Let's ask them, what is it about their job that's going well? What can be improved? And you'll get very many different answers, but the key is you'll know straight from your people what it is that they want and need, and then strategically integrate those ideas into your strategy. Because just to bring them in 8 hours to socialize might be good for some people, but it might not work for others, and then you're destroying all that productivity that's in place at the moment. So I think it's too varied an answer, and I think it's really dependent on the people in your organization. Especially not only your employee, but also their family members going through so much during this time, right? So they may have to take care of the family, they may have to take care of the kids, so much going on, right? So it may not make sense for them to come back to offices, right? So you just gotta, I think you're absolutely right that you definitely gotta, case by case talking to your staff is probably the best way to approach that. Yeah, exactly. And if they're happy, they're going to work harder.
So let's talk about this purpose side of things. I happen to hire a lot of young people in a workforce, because we're a technology company. We hire a lot of young people, and every time I go through a recruiting process, I was just going through yesterday that I knew even people coming from overseas or they're coming out of universities. They're a little bit different than, especially my generation or generation before, that they almost demand these things, purpose and value. They almost demand, they want to know where you stand. They want to know where you socially stand on some issues, what your purpose is, what your value is. Is that what you're finding? And that these people almost demanding that, not that it's nice to have, purpose aligned. They almost demand that, hey, listen, I want to work for an employer who has these things sorted out.
I like that. That's a very good discussion topic. So I think that if you have an employee like that, say, hang on to them. Because if they know what they want and they're grounded, I'm going to use that word again. If they're grounded in who they are and what's important to them and their values, and they want to work for you, that's like, let's do whatever we can to keep these employees happy. And I love that they're pushing the envelope on the conversation. It's more than me coming to work to make money
Yeah.
and to live. It's more, I have a life and I want to make the best of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Work is one aspect of it. I don't want it to be a separate thing. I want it to be integrated in who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing this a lot. I had 2 conversations with 2 students who are about to graduate from university, and they're just brilliant students coming out of university who have amazing ideas. And I find that we need to tap into those ideas because they're seeing the world as it is today from their perspective, and that's the future of our world. And if we keep going back to the way things were, how we think they should be because of our experience, then we're going to be going down a path that we call the Titanic syndrome. So lots of organizations have died because they keep focused on what worked in the past. And so if it worked in the past, it's going to work in the future. That's not necessarily the case. We don't know what's coming up. So these new ideas, this new energy, the younger generation pushing us to have a stance on things, pushing us to explain, like, why are we doing this? As opposed to just taking it and running with it. So they want to know the why. And I think all of us do, but this new generation is coming in really strong. And I'm really encouraged because they're our future leaders. And so they need to take whatever this world is today, and they need to take it into a hopeful tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I had a very interesting, I was recruiting yesterday, and I was, I had an interview with somebody yesterday. Very interesting discussion. And I was at, the question I usually post is, hey, why do you want to work for this company? Why not any other company? And the person said, hey, I'll tell you in a minute if you tell me what your purpose is. It's so beautiful. Let me walk you through that.
I love that.
Those discussions, I think of these people, younger people coming, they're so focused on that. They're so clear on that, what they want to do. And workforce. So that's a lot of hope that that we're going to have a workforce that's so focused on the future in Canada.
Oh, that just inspires me.
Very interesting. So where do people get stuck when they're working on a leadership? Or your work, Sonia, you've been doing it for so many years. Where do you see people getting stuck on a personal development side when they're trying to build the leadership teams? What do they get stuck and how do they get over that stuff?
Well, the first thing that came to mind when you asked the question is oftentimes we get stuck by relying too much on the outside voices.
Okay.
So, this is how the team should be, or this is how you should lead your team. And these voices, they're voices in our head that come from our history, our background, our experience, our upbringing, our culture, and all of that. So I think that's where it comes back to the grounding. So I think that the challenge is we get stuck when we hit sort of these emotional intersections, I call them, emotional intersections, where let's say a team member comes to us and sort of questions what we're doing. And then, we hear it from a colleague, or we see another organization, another CEO coming in and doing things differently. So then we've got all these different, maybe competing ideas, and we don't take time to better understand what is it right for me, first of all, for the team and for the organization in context, and this is important, in context of the needs of today. So what do our customers need? What do our stakeholders need? What do the people around us need? And then align that both to what's important for me, important for my team and our organization. And I think there's a lot of alignment, but we get stuck because we're trying to go too fast. So if we're going too fast, we're not listening to all these different voices, and then we're confused. So we get stuck. I'm stuck. I have this emotional intersection, and we just stay there. And then there's inaction. And so inaction is very loud. So if our team is not seeing us move when we should be moving, then it sends a signal. And then it just creates this avalanche of additional emotion. So I think that's where people get stuck the most. But when they've got structure and when they know what the signals are and the signs are, they can slow down, take the pulse on what's going on around them, starting with themselves, and then move forward slowly. So sometimes we have to act fast, and in order to do that, we just need to take a moment for ourselves and then move forward deliberately and consistently.
So what we're saying is internalize more in a team that externalize, and and what you see outside. I see that all the time. People post, on a LinkedIn, hey, I've started a new company. I started, we always looking outward on a social media, and how big that role play the role in losing our grounds, because we, instead of internalizing, we're looking outside when we look at a social media. What's happening in other company now? Who got the new promotion? All those good news are posted in a social LinkedIn. We always following that, and your staff is also doing that. Not only you, but a staff is also following that. It's very easy to take to lose a focus and a focus on somebody else's company instead of your own teams. How do you gain that focus back if you lose that focus, Sonia?
Well, that's it. So I think there's two things. So outside information is always helpful. We call that market research, or getting the pulse on the environment and the needs and that sort of thing. That's important. What you've just said is a different thing, right?
Okay.
It's the voices that distract us from the focus that we have. So if it's social media or what other people are doing or where they are and what they've achieved, let's say, sometimes it's what the people around us are saying and what we should be doing, as opposed to what it is we feel we're doing. So I think we've lost touch with this natural ability as humans to really reconnect to the pulse of who we are and what feels right for us. Some of us are good at that, and I think that's great. But the majority of us, with all this confusion in the world today, with the global situation that we're in, both with the pandemic and the war, and it's just going to keep getting worse as we progress forward into this potential economic crisis just on the horizon. And so taking all of these events and really being quiet and saying, what do I need? What does my team need? And what does my organization need? And slowing it down so that you can build an authentic human connection with other human beings who are going through this very difficult period, on top of the shortage of employees, and the people out on burnout and sick leave and so on and so forth. So there's just a lot going on. And if we are just stuck in this wheel of I must continue, I must produce, I can't stop, I gotta go forward, you're just going through with blinders, and the impact to the human spirit is huge. Instead, if we slow down and connect to that, the people around us, whether it's our family or our team or organization, it doesn't matter. It really sends a very strong message that there is caring at the heart of this organization, and we can do this together. And it really does bring people together. It's not easy to do this. And because there's the awareness that I was talking to you about, and that's really where we spend 80% of our work, helping with this increase of awareness, which brings clarity, engagement, and resilience for future events as they show up.
Yeah, this is a lot of hard work, but that's where that you have to put time and effort in. But also have experience that definitely this is hard work. You work so hard at that. You're trying to gain a focus, and you stay in line with that. You don't want to lose any focus. But I'm also finding that you also lose focus when you win something in a team as well, right? So that's another challenge. So yeah, there's a lot of these distractions you're going through. You work so hard to stay focused, and everybody's on the same page. Daily basis you work so hard. But then you have a little bit of win, and you can also easily lose focus if you have a win as well. Okay, we won something, now let's take it easy for a little bit, and you lose all your focus again, right? So it works both ways, I guess, right? So all the obstacles also if you have a win in a team as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have the growth model that we use as part of our programs. In fact, maps out predictably all these events. And when something ends, the end could be a win. The end could be a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And what is natural after the win is a period of reflection and regeneration, because we've worked hard and we've either achieved or we've lost. It doesn't matter either way. We've grown and we've learned.
Yeah.
So there is a natural period after that to sort of reflect. So reflection is really important, so we can capture the lessons learned.
I see.
To then bring that into the future with us.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't capture them, our brains, I'm not sure we can keep track of all of these lessons learned. And unless we track them, then we can't bring them with us and use them in future cycles. So there's this period that, if done strategically and well, when you restart whatever it is, the new thing that's coming, again, whether there's a win or a loss, the restart is just stronger if we do it deliberately. Mm-hmm. And we know it's going to happen. It just, it's a cycle. It's a predictable cycle. So we teach people how to use that predictable cycle. We reverse engineer it. And we start with the end in mind, and then map out their entire journey. And so when things happen, they're aware of them and they can better navigate the next steps for themselves, both in leading organizations or in leading teams.
Mm-hmm. That is so important, especially when people changing in a company. You have a leaders you train, and people change in a company. New staff comes in. If you don't retain the knowledge of winning, how do you motivate new people, and how do you train them? Because you don't have that what worked in the past. The new leaders, they have to figure out themselves what's going to work. Right?
Exactly. Yep. The processes and the best practices for your organization, knowing they're going to change and evolve, but they need to be documented. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So what business leaders up against from your side? We are getting almost over pandemic. Now we have a challenge again that, we need to build those companies again, build those teams again. We have to ramp that, revenue levels, whatever we were doing before. I know a lot of my colleagues, business leaders, they are looking into that. Hey, how do we get back to those revenue levels we were before? How do we scale up the teams again? And everybody's struggling with the talent shortage right now. So, there's not enough people to scale up those companies. What are your, if you can share some insight, what business leaders got to work on, what they have to approach to in order to, stay grounded and still build those teams?
Yeah, stay grounded. Exactly. And so as part of the reinvention method that I am a strong believer in, I'm a certified reinvention practitioner, and I follow Nadia Zexambaiva's methodology and her book. So I'm just going to plug her book here for a second.
Nice. Okay.
How to Thrive in Chaos, the Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook.
Okay.
And what you said is very important. So first of all, I think while it's important to celebrate the past, we can't face the past. So saying we want to go back to like the way things were is not realistic, because we don't know what's coming forward. And we can take things with us, of course, our experience and all of that, but we can't rely on our past successes. The future is unknown, and we have to be ready. So that's where the book includes all kinds of tools and case studies to help leaders, organizational leaders, get to that next spot. I'm going to focus on one of the tools, which I think is brilliant, and I use it all the time, and I teach as many people who want to listen. So, we all know strategic planning. And, the traditional strategic planning approach is, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And it's a 3-year plan or 5-year plan, etc. And then we build this beautiful chart that takes us from point A to point B. In today's world, the traditional strategic planning model is not effective. Why? We plan this beautiful strategy and we go a week in and the whole world is different. Right? Everything's changing every 10 minutes. Every time there's something new that's coming. And knock on the door, there's this new thing. Knock on the door, a new thing. So that whole plan that we've, invested time and money putting together is no longer valid. So the tool that Nadia suggests is based on emergent strategy.
Okay.
So it's the understanding that, yes, we have to know where we are today. We should also be very clear on when we want to be tomorrow. But 3 and 5 year plans are not realistic anymore if it is every 2 weeks. So we should have a shorter term plan. Maybe it's quarterly. Quarterly is 3 months seems to be a long period of time nowadays. And I've seen organizations with monthly budgets right now. So they revisit monthly and they look at year to date. So if we're looking at year to date and we're adjusting these monthly or quarterly, we're very agile. Why? So we have a plan in place and we have a series of experiments that we're trying out in our strategy, and they're very finite in terms of time. But as we're executing these experiments, remember, an experiment is not there's no pass fail with an experiment. It's learning and growth. Result, right? So we have this experiment, and as we go forward, things might be coming with it. We might be learning new things. So as we learn these new things, they emerge into our strategy, and we can integrate them because we're agile. And we've planned for that agility. So the strategy itself is still in place. And then we have frequent review meetings. Of course, we document the lessons learned. It's a beautiful tool, and it's called the Stellar Strategy or the Stellar Canvas. And that's the tool I recommend for leaders who want to build a stronger tomorrow and be agile in the way that they manage their people and encourage this more frequent connection and interaction in terms of where we are today, where do we want to be tomorrow, to be able to build that momentum as opposed to crushed every time a storm comes in.
No, I'm going to include a link to the book below the video as well. But you are so on a point. You can't have a strategy that's built, end of the year for the whole year anymore. And it looks like what you're mentioning is in a real time, you're getting a feedback. Events are changing. A lot of things are changing in a company, and you can tweaking that as you go along the strategy. As long as you focus on the right goals, right vision, but the strategy and path you can tweaking real time as you navigate the water, how to get to those goals.
Absolutely. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, that is I don't think any other way you could approach it. I think you're right on a point that's how you got to do, because they're changing so much, right? So people change, technology change, businesses change, process change, environment change. You can't have a strategy that's set in a certain way that, hey, listen, I'm going to build a strategy in January and I'm going to follow till 2022, and then we'll revisit that end of the year. But now you get to revisit all the time and keep tweaking the feedback that what you're getting from your staff into the strategy and changing your ways out as you go along. Especially with the time we just gone through, companies have to reinvent their product, they have to reinvent their services, during this pandemic to accommodate the market. You couldn't have done that if a strategy was just set, a couple of years before. You had to kind of almost get into and change that based on what's the demands out there.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah. And it's a very powerful strategy. And I've seen organizations, large and small, integrate it very nicely. And then so they might have one stellar for the organization. And each team might have their own stellar strategy that's connected. So I like to have it as a macro and then micro. And then you can make it as, you can have various layers for as many teams within the organization. So it's a very brilliant way to stay agile and connected to the pulse of today in the world and of our people.
I see. Very interesting. Where can people buy the book, Sonia? Where can they order? I'll include the link, I think, to your website. That's the best place to buy the book, or is it on Amazon?
On Amazon, yes.
Okay.
Amazon globally has it available. And there's also an e-version if people are interested, and that is a different website. So I will send you all of those information so we can.
I will include both the videos. People can just click a button and order that. So what inspired you to write this book? I think you had a previous book, Apple and Arcade as well, right? So So what
So
was that about, and what was this about? I haven't received the first book yet. So if you can walk us through what those books are about.
yeah, so this is the book we just talked about.
Okay.
This is by Nadia Zexambeva.
Okay.
I can't take credit for it. I'm a co-founder of Reinvention Canada, so I believe in the principles, the methodology so much that we're bringing it to Canadian leaders. In fact, we have a Reinvention Canada Summit, our third annual summit at the end of June 21st, 22nd, 23rd.
Okay.
We're going to share some of these tools from the book and how we've used them in organization. So there's around 10 of us in Canada that are certified, and we've each been integrating it in different industries, with teams, in coaching. And so that's what we're going to have. We're going to have case studies. The author of the book will be there, and we'll also have some workshops. And the link is available for that. For the registration is just open for that.
If you can talk a little bit about the event, the Reinvention Canada, what is that event is about, and how does that who joins them, and how does that came along?
So we are inviting Canadian leaders in particular, or entrepreneurs, as well as solopreneurs. Anybody who's leading a team or an organization in Canada, it would be appropriate for them. And how it came about, so myself and a colleague of mine, Danielle Silverman, the two of us were studying with Nadia, and we were completing our Chief Reinvention Practitioner program. And we were both in Montreal, and pre-pandemic, and we said, wouldn't it be great if we had conversations about reinvention to be able to bring these amazing tools to our world? And at the time, we're talking about the end of 2019. There, we could feel the rumblings in the air, and we knew that change was coming. So we started with an event in Montreal. It was our first and only live event. Because it was February, and we all know what happened in March 2020. And we said, no, I think this is bigger than Montreal. We think it's Canada. So that's when we launched Reinvention Canada, and we've been running virtual sessions ever since, targeting and inviting Canadian business leaders to join us. And we always get the question, I'm not from Canada, but I'd love to join. Everybody's welcome. So we're an inclusive society, and I have to say, out of all of the communities and boards that I've been on, this is truly a remarkable group of human beings. We're all executives and senior leaders helping other executive senior leaders in their work. And this is our third annual conference, and this one's the biggest one to date. We have 2 workshops, which the first one is called Kill Your Company Exercise. And, we're going to give you the tools to learn. We're going to do it together with a fictitious company, but the intention is that you can take this workshop and run it within your own organizations. So if you can kill your own company, you can then find strategies to keep it alive.
Nice.
So that's how we're kicking off the conference, the summit. And then the second day, we have a keynote speaker where I'm sure Nadia will be sharing more about her book. And then we have a series of case studies, we're calling them, where certified reinvention practitioners are going to come and share real stories of their work with organizations across Canada and around the world. And the intention here is we want to demonstrate, here's how we're using the tools. You can use them too. And we want to give you, all our attendees, as much information as possible so that they can bring reinvention into their organizations.
Very interesting. I feel, especially in a Canadian, market, that there's collaboration among the leadership is so missing. And that's where we learn, and that's how we grow. But this collaboration is missing. So, that component that leaders will get together. We all work in silos. We work hard to move the companies forward, and it's a hard work. But at the end of the day, that knowledge, that wisdom kind of stays with the business leaders because they built the company now, there's no collaborative environment where they can share that experience with the other people, right? So I think kudos to you guys putting that went together. Business leaders can share that and they can learn from each other. I think this is so much needed, especially in Canada, that we don't have a lot of events where business leaders can come and share their experiences.
Oh, thank you. And, the thing that's really amazing is we have, our committee and the people who are speaking at the conference, coast to coast. So we go from Vancouver all the way to Halifax. We don't have anybody in Newfoundland yet, but hopefully there's somebody out there that wants to join our group. But our numbers are growing. And the case studies are going to be exceptional. We ran out of time. Like we wish we had more time because we have so many cases, but we want to keep it fun and energetic. And we also have recap networking events in the evening, so that people who maybe couldn't attend, they can come and have a recap discussion and network with some other leaders across the country and around the world. We have a lot of people joining from all over.
Very interesting. I may send you a name for a Newfoundland. I just thought of it, the person who was in my podcast a couple of weeks ago, a great leader. So I'll connect you with David. I will connect you with them.
Oh,
I think he'll be a great addition. So let's talk about yourself. How did you get involved in a leadership, Sonia? If you talk about your background, how did you end up writing books, and how did you get involved?
Oh, it's a great story. So my background is in performance improvement, and I started working with international organizations, helping them put together programs that really bring the employees to life and give them the skills they need to do their job. And so skills were varied. I learned lots of things. I created programs and delivered programs on risk management and value-based pricing and all these wonderful, wonderful topics of which I am not an expert, but I learned a lot, and I connected with some fantastic people globally. And I also do train the trainer programs, again, globally. And so teaching people to teach others is really at the heart of what I do. And then about 10 years in, I had a nice career, and I came to see some trends, a red line across all of the different experience I had. And I realized that unless the managers and the supervisors and the leaders were on board, nobody would follow, right? Like it seemed to be very distinct that when we did programs just for the employees and nobody else was invited, somehow it just didn't work. But when the managers were involved and they believed it, magic. So
always the case.
That's right. And so that's where I said to myself, I think there's something important here. And how can I bring this more to the world? And that's where I sort of transitioned my career. I wrote my book, which is called The Apple in the Orchard. So this one's really mine. And it's an illustrated business book, and it was endorsed by Ken Blanchard, who's a leadership guru. And it has won many awards over the years in its simplicity. So mostly people say such a simple concept, but very deep and very difficult. So it's the story of finding the courage to emerge as a leader. And it's the story of an apple in the orchard and her journey as she decides to pop free from her branch and roll down the hill to the orchard to find out what's going on in this magical place, because she feels something different happening there than it was happening on her tree. And she came to understand that she had the power all along, and she was able to be grounded just like the trees around her to impact the future of her orchard. So it's a story of hope. And I've got a lot of good feedback on the book, and it now is released in Spanish. So we're actually having the Spanish book tour launch is currently in progress. And it has found its way to 3,000 senior high school young adults, I could call them, in Mexico. And that's where the Spanish version came from. And so we're looking to inspire, again, the future generation to not be afraid to take the leap. And that's where the name of the program came from. So we have a program that's running currently in 2 universities, soon to be a 3rd university, and we're bringing it to organizations as well, especially for onboarding new leaders or new employees, help them to really understand that they have an important part to play, and we need their voice if this organization is going to go forward. And with that, we can have talent retention, because again, it's the purpose conversation, it's the grounding, it's the awareness, and creating community around all of that is very important. That's where the orchard comes in. So we need to have a community that's thriving and growing together.
Very interesting. I had a discussion with Gary Valentine, a couple of weeks ago, and I think his podcast about to go live this Monday. We were talking on a similar topic: thriving leaders, thriving mindset, and emerging leaders. We built up, companies. Many years ago, we built the companies traditional ways. It's almost kind of step by step kind of process. But this day and age, what do I'd like to get your thoughts on it. You think the business leader can build a company if they don't have a thriving mindset, they're not emerging as a leadership skills? Is it still possible to build a company, or they simply gotta, have a learning mindset and a growing mindset, and they gotta be open to all the new ideas, and that is the only way to build a company going forward?
Oh, well, I don't know if there's a perfect way to build a company. And I think what's beautiful is that we all have unique and individual strengths.
Mm-hmm.
However, that being said, organizations are living systems. And they're living systems because the people are the people, we are the people who are going to build and allow this company to become something that people need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if we don't look at our organizations as living systems, but as machines that just have inputs, outputs, processes, then we lose a huge opportunity to create a thriving organization that's alive. So life is a key metric that not a lot of us measure.
I see.
Is there life in the system? I don't know. Do we measure it? Probably not. What is the measure? Maybe there are different things. Nadia often tells the story of a CEO who used noise levels, decibel levels, to measure life in the system. And if the decibel levels were high, that means people were talking, people were having conversation, and they were excited about this, the decibel level, excited about their work and what they're doing. When it got quiet, the decibel level was the thing he measured. Then he started worrying, like, why aren't people talking? So it could be anything, but do we measure life in our systems? They are living systems.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want our system to thrive, we need to focus on the human, which is at the heart of life in our systems. Like, the human can be our employees, our customers, our stakeholders, all of the humans. Mm-hmm. And connecting to them is such a powerful journey, but also a huge reward for being a leader of an organization and providing people with things they need.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's, end of the day, business are made of humans, not a machine. It's a humans, either your customers, your vendors, either employees, what else, it's all humans at the end of the day, right? So that's how we move the companies forward.
Exactly. But sometimes we do forget, we focus on numbers, processes, products, sales, revenue, and all of that. So we do forget. So that's where keeping that focus on life and how we will decide to measure that's really important.
I see. So let's talk about your program. Where can people find more information about your program? Where, book we already talked about, it's on Amazon. I'm going to include a link. Where can people find more information if they want to learn by you or they want to connect with you? Where they can reach you as well?
So the best way to reach me is my website, which is my name. So soniadimaulo.com. And there you can access the book in English and in Spanish, and our programs, which are also in English and in Spanish. We have a Take the Leap program for professionals launching in June in Spanish and September in English. And we are shortly going to be launching at Queen's University. And we're launching a global initiative for students all over the world. So anybody who wants access to this methodology is welcome to join us through the website, through programs and books.
Beautiful. I really want to appreciate your time. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I learned so much from you, and especially kudos to you, the work you guys doing with the Reinvention Canada. I think that work is so much needed that we need to bring those leaders together. We need to learn together. And I think that's a great, the investment of your time. I think you've given back to people, the chance to learn from each other. So
I hope so.
Kudos to you. Good, keep up the good work. I think that's the only way we learn from each other, right?
Thank you so much. I agree. Yes, we can only go forward with community.
Okay. Any advice for the business leaders? trying to build the companies now, anything they this year or next year, anything they got to keep in mind when they're going through all that tough time and trying to rebuild the companies?
Well, it might be easier said than done, but I would say don't lose hope.
Yeah.
And the only way forward is through experiments. So short experiments, have your employees bring those experiments to life, test the market, test your employees, test your products, quick tests, see how they fare, and then evolve them over time while keeping a really close eye on the needs of the world. And I think that with hope and experiments, I think that that's how we are going to create very, very successful organizations.
Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to our future discussion, but I appreciate your time with us.
Thank you so much, Gurmeet.
Thank you, Sonia.
Bye-bye.
Hi there. Thank you so much for investing time with us and watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. For next episode, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and send your feedback. Until next time, have yourself a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.